Late afternoon in a dense commercial district. Pedestrian signals change every 90 seconds. Office workers move between buildings in short bursts, and traffic fills the intersections with alternating waves of sound. Along the edge of a plaza, pigeons gather near the base of a metal bench. They are not packed together. Instead, they spread across a small section of pavement, each bird leaving a narrow gap between the next. When people pass nearby, the birds shift position, but rarely leave the area entirely. A few walk several steps away, pause, and then drift back once the flow of pedestrians moves on. Most of the time, they are simply standing, walking slowly, or pecking occasionally at the ground. This quiet persistence reveals something about how pigeons operate. In dense urban environments, downtown areas present a particular combination of pressures. Movement is constant. Noise levels fluctuate quickly. Open pavement offers little physical cover. Yet pigeons continue to occupy these places day after day. Their presence is not random. It emerges from a set of behavioral tendencies that allow them to function within these conditions. One of the first patterns visible in these environments is how pigeons distribute themselves across open ground. Rather than forming a tight flock, they maintain loose spacing while staying within visual range of one another. This spacing allows several things to happen simultaneously. Each bird keeps a clear field of view across the pavement and toward approaching movement. At the same time, nearby, individuals expand the number of eyes monitoring the surroundings. The birds are not coordinating intentionally. Instead, the spacing creates a loose network of overlapping awareness. When a pedestrian steps too close or a bicycle cuts across the plaza, one bird may react first. Others notice the movement and adjust shortly after. Some birds take short flights to a nearby ledge. Others simply walk several meters away. Within a few moments, the group spreads out again across the same general area. This pattern repeats throughout the day. Downtown spaces are unpredictable. Crowds appear and disperse quickly. Delivery vehicles stop briefly and then leave. Construction noise may rise and fall within minutes. Under these conditions, leaving an area completely every time something changes would require constant relocation. Instead, pigeons tend to respond with partial adjustments. They shift position rather than abandoning the environment. This reduces the energy cost of repeated flight and allows them to remain within an area where resources are already familiar. Another pattern appears in how pigeons use the vertical structures surrounding downtown plazas. Look upward and the edges of buildings reveal rows of narrow ledges, window frames, and architectural seams. Pigeons frequently move between ground feeding areas and these elevated perches. The transitions are brief. A bird may spend only a minute on a ledge before returning to the ground. This movement creates a layered use of space. The ground functions as a foraging surface, where small food fragments accumulate. Higher surfaces act as temporary observation points where the birds pause and monitor activity below. Because buildings provide many repeating ledges and narrow platforms, pigeons rarely compete for a single perch. Instead, they distribute themselves across multiple nearby structures. This arrangement supports a repeated cycle. Ground exploration. Short retreat to elevation. Return to the ground once activity stabilizes. The geometry of downtown buildings supplies enough structure to maintain this loop. Another important feature of these areas is constant human movement. Pedestrians approach from many directions, creating continuous visual motion. Rather than reacting to every movement as a major threat, pigeons often calibrate their responses based on distance and speed. When a person walks past at a moderate pace, the birds usually step aside but remain nearby. If movement becomes faster or more direct, they lift briefly into the air before settling again a short distance away. This graded response helps them maintain position within areas where food appears unpredictably. Downtown environments generate small but continuous sources of edible material. Fragments of bread, grains from packaged food, and bits of organic waste scatter across sidewalks and plazas. None of these sources remain in one place for long. Cleaning crews remove debris. Rain washes surfaces clean. Foot traffic spreads food fragments across wide areas. For pigeons, feeding opportunities are dispersed and temporary. Instead of concentrating on a single location, they move slowly across open pavement, pecking occasionally and continuing forward. The behavior looks casual, but it reflects a scanning approach suited to environments where food appears in small amounts across large surfaces. Hard pavement actually helps maintain this pattern. Food fragments remain visible longer on flat surfaces than they would in vegetation or soil. Even small crumbs become accessible resources when spread across an entire plaza. Risk management plays a role here as well. Although ground feeding increases exposure, the openness of paved areas allows birds to detect approaching movement from a distance. With few obstacles blocking their view, pigeons can monitor a wide section of the environment while moving slowly across the ground. Temperature patterns also influence how pigeons use downtown spaces. Large buildings absorb heat during the day and release it gradually. Concrete, stone, and asphalt surfaces often remain warmer than surrounding areas during cooler periods. Pigeons frequently settle along sunlit building edges or near ventilation outlets, where warm air rises. These locations function as temporary resting points between foraging movements. Over time, pigeons also become familiar with the rhythm of human activity. Morning deliveries, lunchtime crowds, and evening commuter traffic create repeated patterns. Feeding activity often increases when pedestrian density rises, since more movement increases the chance that food fragments will appear. Later in the evening, when sidewalks quiet down and cleaning activity begins, pigeons shift more frequently toward ledges and rooftops. The plaza that held dozens of birds earlier in the day may appear almost empty. But the birds have not left the area. They have simply moved upward along the surrounding buildings. Architectural features of downtown structures resemble some of the cliff environments where pigeons historically nested. Narrow ledges, sheltered corners, and vertical surfaces provide many small resting spaces. These locations offer protection from wind and weather, while remaining close to ground-level feeding zones. The combination of feeding surfaces below and resting points above creates a stable loop of movement. Walk the ground, lift to a ledge, pause and observe, return to the pavement. To an observer, pigeons may appear permanently settled in certain plazas, but over longer periods their positions shift gradually. Birds arrive from nearby rooftops, while others depart toward neighboring buildings. The birds visible at any moment represent only a portion of the larger group using the surrounding block. As evening approaches and pedestrian traffic slows, pigeons begin settling along upper ledges and rooftop edges. From street level, they seem to disappear, but they remain within the same structures they use throughout the day. When morning activity begins again and the first pedestrians cross the plaza, a few pigeons descend once more to the pavement. They spread out across the open ground, maintaining the same loose spacing seen the day before. Short movements, occasional flights to nearby ledges, slow scanning across the surface. In dense urban districts, pigeons do not rely on a single advantage. Their continued presence emerges from the interaction of several small tendencies: maintaining visual spacing, adjusting gradually to disturbance, moving between ground and ledges, and scanning widely dispersed food sources. Together these patterns allow them to function within environments that are constantly shifting. The downtown plaza never stays the same for long, yet the behavioral rhythm of the pigeons continues, adjusting step by step as the city moves around them.